Let's look at background vocals Jeff Lynne style. Next on Music Surgery with me, Dr. Bob. Hey, before we get started, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. Also, there are tons of great samples from my personal library below in the description of every video. They're all pay what you want. And lastly, if you want me to work on your music, hit me at drbobmusicsurgery@gmail.com. From ELO to the Beatles to Tom Petty and more, let's take a look at how this genius sings and stacks background vocals. Watch this. All right, you guys, Jeff Lynne, background vocals or background stacks. I can't say enough about his music, the way he did things. I love Jeff Lynne. Huge fan of all background vocals. Big Mutt Lang fan. Jeff Lynne, Steely Dan, Earth, Wind & Fire, Def Leppard. I mean, goes down the list. I kind of grew up in an era where big background vocals were prominent. But today we're going to talk about Jeff Lynne style. Let me play you a couple things that I've done that ring true to this, and then I'll show you something that I'm currently working on, and I'll go through how I'm doing it. So here's just a couple snippets of things that have a Jeff Lynne kind of twist to them. And here's another one. So there are those. Now, let me show you something that I'm working on right now. This is kind of a peek behind the scenes. There are nothing on any of these vocals. I've tuned some of them. I've not tuned some of them, but there's no compression. I didn't record them with compression. There's no EQ. There's no anything. So let me play you this segment of just all these background vocals that I'm singing stacks to against a stereo track. And then we'll talk about what I'm doing to kind of get this sound.
We fell in love long distance online. She's leaving her life in the country behind. Paid her in full by certified check. Send the receipt in case she doesn't like sex. No more call me prep. I'll save you from it. Make a moment. I booked us a chapel in Vegas. Elvis will marry us there. Marry us there. Marry us there.
Okay, kind of a wild snippet out of a song. But, so the first thing I've done is I've made a copy. I've bounced my stereo track down. So this is my stereo track. So I don't have a bunch of tracks to deal with because I know I'm going to be singing literally hundreds of vocals on this song. So it's much easier to just bounce a track to 2 and sing along. Now, what I have here, this first section, let me bring these down here. So let's concentrate on this section. What I've done here, these are untuned. These are tuned of one part. 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 And all of these are untuned. So let me play you the way that I would stack these. Right now, these aren't even panned. Or these two aren't. So right now, the top ones are the untuned melody or barely tuned melody.
We fell in love long distance online.
So what I would normally do is probably pan the melody to the center, the double of it a little bit off to one side, a little bit down, and then these two left and right. Now, as I go through this, you need to know that if you're really going for a Jeff Lynne sound, especially like the ELO sound or some of the Queen sound or whatever, understand that where they were coming from was there was a lot of times there'd be some mono background vocals. There's some ELO songs when I put the track in mono, I can barely hear the difference in the background vocals at all. And the reason is they didn't have enough tracks. They had 24 tracks they were dealing with. So a lot of times, if they had 4, 5, 6 parts going, they would have to bounce that down to mono and then add other parts because they didn't have unlimited tracks. They most of the time, the music I'm talking about had 24. So just because we have the technology now to pan way out left and right, that's great. And sometimes it's super great. But mono background vocals or background vocals that aren't completely wide give you a different feeling. And you're going to have to experiment with that to see how it hits you best. That's the only way I can describe it. Sometimes, I don't know if it makes me feel like music was when I was a kid or whatever, but there's a feeling the background vocals that are more panned in give you that's much different than spread out. I mean, there's songs like Telephone Line by ELO and even Don't Bring Me Down, where a lot of the vocals sound like they're right up top, maybe just a little panned out, probably because they didn't have enough tracks to do a bunch of takes and pan them out. Anyway, so remember that because that's very important. So here is this part. Here's the first melody. Sorry, that is the melody again, tuned. So nothing panned there on these two, and hard left, right there. This is the next part.
In love, long distance online. She's leaving her life and her country behind. Paint her in full by
P-pop, so I haven't fixed any of this. So those are tuned, and those are panned out. Here is the third part.
In love, long distance online. She's leaving her life and her country behind. Paint her in full by certified check.
And yet another part in blue here, and it is panned out as well.
In love, long distance online. She's leaving her life and her country behind. Paint her in full by certified check. Save the receipt in case she doesn't like sex. No more call me grip.
So, as you can see, I'm doing about 4 stacks of each part. Where this ends up being panned in the song will depend, because right now I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for what the part should be. Some complex harmonies. So on this next part, we have the same thing going on up here, but here we have looser tune parts, which are...
No more call me grip. I'll save you from it. Minka, I'm on. No more call me grip. I'll save you. No.
So those are untuned, and these are all tuned that go with them. So the reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to make this sound kind of modern, like tuned vocals are. I know there's a million. We could go on and on about tuning, but I like it. But if you want to have a hint of the radio days of me as a kid, there's some looseness there and some obviously untuned vocals to where they sound manicured, but they don't sound perfect. So that's why I throw untuned vocals in with tuned vocals.
No more call me grip. I'll save you from it. Minka, I'm all in.
So we have that stack. These were obviously answers over here. I like this. I like the sound for this type of music with tuned versus untuned. And in the mix, I can kind of make things sound modern and clear and not a whole lot of vocal align because that's not how it was back then, but just enough to make it sound manicured but not over manicured. And then up here, I've got all these vocals, which I've not sung the untuned vocals yet. So here are these. The first vocals are, these are panned all over the place.
I booked us a chapel in Vegas. Elvis will marry us. I booked us a chapel in Vegas. Elvis will marry.
Some off tuning, so I need to work on. So that's the high part. What do we have next?
I booked us a chapel in Vegas. Elvis will marry us there. I booked us a chapel in Vegas. Elvis will marry us there. I booked us a chapel in Vegas. Elvis will marry us there. Marry us there. Marry us there.
So really just the stacking of parts. These might be super high.
Elvis will marry us there. Marry us there. Marry us there. Marry us there.
They're better. These are, I mean, obviously, I've tuned the crap out of those, and because I can't sing that high. Much like when they would very speed the tape machine down for singers to get these super high notes that they couldn't sing. So, but it needs to be there for like the operatic, oomph of it all. So all that together, and I'll need to go in and tweak the tuning on some of it and then sing untuned vocals with it. But that section is...
I booked us a chapel in Vegas. Elvis will marry us there. Marry us there. Marry us there.
And again, this is the melody, so that would probably be up top. This would be pan to the side, a little down. And those would be... pan more like this. Like I said, I'm in the middle of this and none of this is finished, but I wanted to show you a peek into the process. So the takeaways of the Jeff Lynne kind of backing stacks are: don't be afraid to go hard left and hard right, or mono, or somewhere in between. Those older records, not everything is hard right and left. I'm generally doing 4 parts, 4 stacks of each part. I feel like the tuned against the untuned vocals kind of give it an interesting dynamic of, perfection and imperfection, and I will not vocal line these because I want the sense of how it was in the 70s. Now, the last takeaway is this. Every song I've played you has extremely interesting chord changes. Another thing that a lot of our favorite background vocal bands had. Hotel California had great background vocals and cool changes. Anything by Steely Dan, Earth, Wind & Fire, Queen, ELO. I mean, Jeff Lynne really got a lot from like Roy Orbison type music. He loved Roy Orbison and those type of melodies. Roy Orbison was in the Traveling Wilburys with Jeff. So it's going to be hard to get those really blue notes and those really emotional, that emotional harmonic content, unless you're really trying to look for some chords and write songs with that type of thing in it. I mean, now these type of stacks go in any kind of chord change or whatever, but know that some of the reason why we key on the background vocals of some of these bands is because the harmonic structure and the harmonic content of what they were doing is interesting. ELO is interesting. Queen is interesting. These are not paint by numbers chord changes. So if you're listening to your song and you're going, why doesn't this sound like Jeff Lynne or whatever? Know that the stacks can sound that way and big and full and interesting. But these guys are writing, and women were writing songs with interesting chord changes, which makes it even more interesting. So that's the takeaways. Experiment with this stuff and your song, and wow, what a privilege to grow up in a time where we had this kind of music. Well, there you go. Keep this in mind when singing your next wall of sound background vocal session. Also, remember to experiment with chord choices when writing songs to give more interesting harmony choices when it comes time to sing. Thanks so much for watching. Give me some comment, love, and a thumbs up below. And hit me at drbobmusicsurgery@gmail.com if you want to say hello or you want me to work on your music. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you the next time the doctor sings.